Western Canada's beef industry began in the late 1800s with English and American settlers discovering the many advantages that make Canada an ideal location to raise cattle. These frontier producers found ways to prosper in the Canadian climate by using progressive management practices and by being early adapters of technology. That same spirit persists today. Canadian beef producers are committed to ensuring their industry provides a safe, wholesome food product and makes a positive contribution to the economy in a way that is compatible with the sustained use of the land and other resources used in cattle production. Canada's beef industry contributes over $20 billion annually to the economy and is the largest single source of farm cash receipts. Beef production takes place in every province in Canada, with a total of approximately 15 million head of cattle and calves. Alberta is the largest beef-producing province at 65%, followed by Ontario at 21%, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and BC with a combined total of 12%, and Quebec and the Atlantic provinces sitting at about 2%. Canada consumes approximately 50% of total beef and cattle produced in the country. The other 50% is exported around the world. Key export markets include the United States, Mexico, and Asia. Canadian beef is sold to about 70 countries and has a reputation for being among the finest in the world. Producing world-class beef is a team effort. From cattle producers who raise the animals, to feedlots that finish animals for market, to processors that prepare the product for market, to government agencies that ensure rigorous production standards. Many support industries are also involved, such as grain producers, auction markets where cattle are traded, feed manufacturers, truckers, veterinarians, and scientists. Canada's beef industry relies on a mix of traditional practices and science to develop technology and management systems for cattle production. The industry employs extensive expertise to ensure food safety, meat quality, environmental sustainability, and the humane treatment of animals. Scientists are involved at every level of production and include grazing management specialists, large animal veterinarians, specialized nutrition, and feedlot advisors, meat safety and quality scientists, researchers, government inspectors, and more. Here's Erin Butters. She's a real cattle producer who has been part of an award-winning campaign to promote Canadian beef.
Hello, I'm a fifth-generation rancher in the foothills west of Calgary, Alberta. I've worked on a ranch all of my life, and since completing university and starting my own family, I am now continuing our century-long ranching tradition. I am one part of the team, an intricate production chain that provides the finest beef products for our customers here at home and abroad. I'm so proud to be part of the Canadian beef industry, producing nutritious food with 13 essential nutrients, energy, and high-quality protein.
It all starts with superior registered breeding stock and genetics. Cattle are selected and bred for characteristics that produce healthy, well-muscled animals that yield high-quality, tender beef. Canada's beef industry has refined its genetic base through reproductive technology, such as artificial insemination and embryo transfer. Canada's highly developed beef cattle genetics sector produces and markets purebred breeding cattle, semen, and embryos around the world, and has helped to improve cattle genetics in other countries. With this solid genetic base, the next phase of production is cow-calf operations on the farms and ranches that raise calves for Canada's beef industry. All the necessities for beef production are here: fresh air and water, frosty winters, warm summers, and millions of acres of grazing land. Canadian cattle producers are responsible stewards of the environment. They ensure that the cattle they raise are healthy and well tended, not only because this is how producers earn a living, but because it's the right thing to do. The average beef cow herd in Canada is 53 head, with the majority coming from small family-run operations. Many of these farms and ranches have been in existence for several generations, and raising cattle is a way of life for these families. Their experience and dedication helps to provide a great product for consumers. The calves nurse and graze with their mothers on pastures and grasslands throughout the spring, summer, and fall seasons. For the majority of their lives, beef cattle eat a diet comprised of pasture grasses and other plants, often referred to as forages. After being raised on the farms and ranches where cattle spend most of their lives, they are brought to a market-ready weight at feedlots.
This involves a multi-stage feeding system where cattle start on a diet comprised mainly of forage. Gradually, grain or corn is added and the forage is reduced until the proportion of grain or corn comprises 90% of the feed ration. On average, cattle will gain about 1.5 kilograms of weight per day on the higher proportion grain or corn feed ration. Geographically, cattle are typically fed a barley ration in Western Canada and mainly corn based in the east. Both types produce high-quality, well-marbled beef. The science-based systems in place at the feedlot use modern technology to ensure that the cattle are carefully looked after to produce a consistently uniform and high-quality beef product for the consumer. Over 90% of animals finished in feedlots achieve a grade of Canada A, AA, AAA, or Prime, the most desired categories within the Canadian beef grading system.
Cattle will typically spend 90 to 200 days in a feedlot before they are sold to processors. Once they are sold, the cattle are processed and beef is packaged for purchasers, such as food service distributors and retailers, which in turn sell beef directly to consumers. The Canadian beef processing industry is comprised of modern, government-inspected establishments with accredited safe food management systems. These facilities use state-of-the-art production technology under strict sanitary and food safety conditions. Canadian beef is inspected, graded, and tested according to the highest, safest world standards. The safety of Canadian beef is a priority throughout the entire production chain, from the farm through to the processing plant. The industry's Quality Starts Here program has established procedures at every stage of beef production to ensure quality and food safety.
There's no silver bullet to food safety. We're utilizing multiple interventions in the plant to provide a safe and wholesome product, not just to our domestic, but also to our international customers. And it's really important because not only are these customers buying our product, but we're also feeding it to our families.
To further ensure a safe and healthy beef supply, Canada's beef industry established a traceback system. The Canadian Cattle Identification Program involves tagging all cattle before they leave their herd of origin. Each beef animal in Canada has a unique identification number that stays with them as they move through the production chain to the processing plant. The Cattle Identification Program is mandatory and regulated by the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. Canada is the only country in North America with a mandatory cattle identification program and has been studied by other countries as a model traceback system. Canada is committed to animal care and environment programs. Canada's cattle producers took a lead role in developing a code of practice for the care and handling of beef cattle. The code outlines standards for everything from housing and management practices for animals on farms to transportation and processing. When it comes to the environment, generations of experience has made the Canadian beef industry one of the most knowledgeable industries dedicated to conservation practices. By taking care of the land and water, farms, ranches, and feedlots can sustain viable cattle operations, generation after generation. The Canadian beef industry has invested millions of dollars in environmental research and programming, and each year the industry bestows its Environmental Stewardship Award, recognizing Canadian cattle producers who are excellent managers of land and water resources.
As you can see, Canadian beef producers take their business and the cattle they raise seriously. Each production phase relies on the others to maintain the great reputation that Canadian beef has at home and around the world. Not only does it taste great, but today's lean beef is low in fat, full of nutritional goodness, and the perfect choice for a healthy, well-balanced diet. Whether it's a traditional roast beef dinner for the family, a steak or burger on the barbecue, or used in a salad, beef is great anytime. My favorite beef recipes are Greek steak sandwiches and hamburger soup. Again, by working together, the Canadian beef industry provides information on just about anything beef, including cooking information and recipes through the Beef Information Centre. Visit their website. Whether it's for our own families, other consumers in Canada, or export customers, the Canadian beef industry team is committed to delivering the highest quality beef in the world.